Hello, everyone, and welcome to, I'm guessing, episode number 2 when it comes to business analysis. Woohoo! I had a lot of fun yesterday, by the way, or in the previous episode. So today we're talking about chapter 2, business analysis key concepts. We're only at page 21 of the 514 fucking pages that we have to go through. Energy, energy. All right. Business analysis key concepts. The business analysis key concept chapter includes information that provides a foundation for all other content, concepts, and ideas within the BABOK guide. Provides business analysts with the basic understanding of the central ideas necessary for understanding and employing the BABOK guide in their daily practice of business analysis. So key concepts basically is just kind of like here, they're telling us that this is what we're going to learn from a conceptual standpoint of things that we would end up doing. So still not really teaching us business analysis. They're just talking to us about the concepts of business analysis. This chapter consists of business analysis core concept model, defines a conceptual framework for the business analysis profession. So this chapter is more uh, an outline of how we will be working. How, not what we will be doing, how we'll be working. Key terms provides definitions of essential concepts which are highlighted because of their importance in the BABOK to the BABOK guide. Requirements classic terms, terminology is very important by the way, because like the way they speak is very important and articulation is key, especially when you're talking to fellow business analysts. When you're talking to other people, you feel free to kind of like communicate any way you feel they will understand you. When you're talking to business analysts, they need to know exactly what you're doing, and all of these are mental creations, right? Like business analysis is creating a mental model for other people to be able to apply. Hypothetical shit. Requirements classification schema identifies levels of or types of requirements that assist a business analysis and other stakeholders in categorizing requirements. Schema is basically, well, a schema when it comes to databases is basically how the database is going to look like different points on the data and shit like this. So requirements classification schema is basically you creating a, how do I explain schema? You're describing how the basically requirements will be sorted, I guess, would be arranged and how they might look like. The classification of them. Stakeholders defines roles, characteristics of groups or individuals participating in or affected by the business analysis activities. Remember, stakeholders are the people that are involved. So there are many people that could be involved depending on the project. This is very like business analysis is really just kind of like it very much is how to mentally approach things. Requirements and designs describes the distinction between the importance of requirements and designs as they relate to the business. I guess we'll figure that out when we get to it. Woohoo! Business analysis core concept model. You guys can see me, right? Yes, amazing. So business analysis core concept model, BACCM. Do we really care for this shit? No. Is a conceptual framework for business analysis, core concept model. It encompasses what business analysis is and what it means to those performing business analysis tasks, regardless of perspective, industry, methodology. See, that's the whole versatile approach because we're going to be doing a whole lot. You never know which industry you're going to be working as a business analyst in. You never know what you're going to be analyzing. You never know how you're going to be looking at things. And all of these are kind of like you have to discover the optimal way to do it. So like there are core concept models. I don't think there's one model, but the core concept model here basically probably just allows us now see 6 core concepts in the BACCM. So it's a model about the concepts, it's a model about the model of the concepts. See here, 6 concept models. See, there we go. All right, now, okay, so it means that those performing business analysis tasks, regardless of respective industry methodology or level of organization, it is composed of 6 terms that have common meaning to all business analysts that help to discuss the both business analysis and the relationship with common terminology. Each of these terms is considered to be a core concept. So the six core concepts are change, need, solution, stakeholder, value, and context. That's not what they explained here, so I just wanted to check. So you kind of have to approach it like this, like, what would change or what do we need to change? What is it the need that drives us to actually like have a job as a business analyst? Like, why are you necessary? The solution, as in like what solutions could be there, what solutions are we providing, stakeholder, the person, the people involved, what's the value, and that's basically a measurement, like a KPI, a key performance index, that's how that KPI should reflect the values and basically how those could be translated into more optimal and stuff like this, I guess. And context, as in like, what's the context that we're actually working in? Because you might be working in a pharmaceutical company in the context of sales or in the context of finance or whatever. Each core concept is an idea fundamental to the practice of business analysis, and all the concepts are equal and necessary. Each core concept is defined by the other five core concepts and cannot be fully understood until all the concepts are understood. So basically, you don't know what the fuck you're doing unless you understand what needs to change, what is needed, what what is going to change, what is a solution, what is a stakeholder, what is a value, and and what's the concept, what's the value and what's the concept, who are the stakeholders, what's the value, and which context are we working with. So basically the first couple of months, maybe depending on the project, but the first stages is you kind of like fulfilling what these are in order for you to understand what the fuck you're going to be doing. And no single concept holds greater importance or significance over the other concepts. They kind of like complement each other, right? Like if you don't know what is needed, you can't actually like understand the context of why you have a job. So you can figure out the solution. And if you don't know the people that are involved, you kind of like all of these kind of like become redundant. So every single one is actually as important as the other. But the way they're described and the way they're handled differs from like project to project. These concepts are instrumental to understanding the type of information elicited, analyzed, or managed in business analysis tasks. Elicited and analyzed, these two words are actually very beautiful. Or managed, right? Because information is key. Like your job is to see things from a different perspective, because if your job would have been easy, then the company itself would have done it. The BACCM, which is the business analysis core concept model, can be used to describe the profession and domain of business analysis, communicate about business analysis with a common terminology, evaluate the relationships of key concepts in business analysis, perform better business analysis by holistically evaluating the relationships among these six concepts, and evaluate the impact of these concepts and relationships at any point during a work effort in order to establish both a foundation and a path forward. So practically, these are the main 6 points that you're going to be playing with throughout your, I'm guessing, the introduction phase to the project. You're going to be like reassessing, reorganizing, restructuring, inputting, outputting, all that kind of stuff. And it helps kind of like clarify what exactly are you trying to like resolve, and what are the things you're trying to get resolve them through, and who are the people that are required for the resolution, and what comes out of it. 6 concepts, we explained them earlier. Change, the active transformation in response to a need. Change works to improve the performance of an enterprise. These improvements are deliberate and controlled through business analysis. See where we are right now? Need, a problem or opportunity to be addressed. Needs can cause changes by motivating stakeholders to act. Changes can also cause needs by eroding or enhancing the value delivered by existing solutions. See, I think they're actually using all these words here. I don't know if you noticed them. Changes, solutions, stakeholders. Me. So they used 4 of the 6 in order for them to kind of like show us how like important this is. Let's highlight these ones here as well. I think that would be cool. Controlled through here, business analysis, enterprise. Nice. Change works to improve the performance of an enterprise that are deliberate and controlled enough. Huh, it's a response to a need. Here they only mention 2 things. Solution, a specific way of satisfying more needs, needs in a context. Notice how they're using them? Maybe I should have picked a different color, but it's fine. The solution satisfies the need by resolving a problem faced by stakeholders or enabling stakeholders to take advantage of an opportunity. A stakeholder is a group of individuals with a relationship to the change, the need, the solution, the change, the need, and the solution. Defined, the stakeholders are often defined in terms of interest and impact on influence over change. Stakeholders are grouped based on their relationships to the needs, changes, and solutions. They just repeated the same three words, man. What the fuck? All right. Value, the worth, importance, or usefulness of something to a stakeholder within a context. Here we go. Value can be seen as potential of real or realized returns, gains, and improvements. Also possible to have a decrease in value in the form of losses, risks, and costs. Get it? Value. Why are we doing this? To gain value. Normally, add, we associate gain through money. But sometimes gain should not necessarily be money. It could be we're losing some money here, but we're strengthening something else somewhere. I don't know, maybe strengthening our operations. So like by this year's, we lose for 6 months, but we gain double it in the after 6 months or something like this. Value can be tangible or intangible. See, I just explained it. I am actually good at this, not bad Tari. Tangible value, or I think really genuinely, when you actually read something and you actually try to make sense out of it, you you explain where you're at on your own to yourself, and as you take the next step and you learn more, then you get to actually reflect on it. There's a doctor called Richard Feynman. He won a Nobel Prize. I love that guy. And he always says the best thing you could do is always have an opinion, but challenge it immediately. Like, look for ways to challenge your opinion until it can't be challenged. That's the theory behind gravity, because like ultimately that's what a theory is. Because a theory is not necessarily is not provable. It just hasn't been proven wrong yet. So value can be tangible or intangible. Tangible value is directly measurable. Tangible value often has significant monetary components. Intangible value is measured indirectly. Intangible value often has a significant motivational component, such as company's reputation or employee morale. In some cases, value can be assessed in absolute terms, but in many cases, assessed in relative terms. Absolute terms, probably financially, or we have a building, that's what our value is, or sales, or something like this. But when it comes to relative terms, probably is like, we're feeling better as a group, we're closer as a fucking team, or something like this, or operationally, we're faster. You can always find metrics to actually like add to things, but it's perfectly fine. We'll figure them out later. One solution option is more valuable than another form of perspective, or is it, or a, than the other from the perspective of the given set of stakeholders. Oh, all right. So if you're dealing with stakeholders that are more into the financial aspect, then basically the solution they would want is something that either reduces cost or allows their job and finance to be easier. Well, if you're dealing with somebody when it comes to, for example, operations, they'll probably want, they don't care for the money, they just want their salespeople to have a better working environment. You get it? So each stakeholder might actually require a different solution. So that's what they meant by relative. See, what I said was not necessarily like fully complete, or maybe it was just like not correct, but still. The circumstances that influence are influenced by and provide understanding of the change. That's the context. The context, as in like through what, right? Sure. Let's stick to that for now. Changes occur with the context. The context is everything relevant to the change that's within the environment. Context may include attitudes, behaviors, beliefs, competitors, cultures, demographic, goals, governments, infrastructure, language, losses, processes, products, projects, sales, season, terminology, technology, weather, and any other element meeting the definition. So we do live in this world, but instead of like picking the context that we exist in, maybe it's easier for us to eliminate everything that doesn't deal with it. Anyways, so these are basically a brief description of like context, value, stakeholder, solution, need, and change. The core concept can be used by business analysts to consider the quality and completeness of the work being done. Within each knowledge area description, there are examples of how core concepts may be used and or applied during the task within the knowledge area. Remember, there's a full chapter, I think, discussing knowledge area because we're the ones who have to kind of build the knowledge area, I think, as a business analyst. While planning or performing a task or technique, business analysts can consider how each core concept is addressed by asking questions such as, what are the kinds of changes are we doing? What are the needs we are trying to satisfy? What are the solutions we are creating or changing? Who are the stakeholders involved? What do stakeholders consider to be of value? What are the contexts that we and the solution are in? Right? So practically you have to find a way to fill and understand these words that they gave us. Context, stakeholders, all that stuff. Value. See? You have to figure out the questions as well, like solutions, changing, needs, changes, right? So, if any of the core concepts experience a change, it should cause us to reevaluate these core concepts and their relationships to the value delivery system. Holy shit! That means if one of them kind of changes, we have to go through all of them and see if that change impacts any one of them. Impacted. We should go around and see how it's impacted and see everyone is connected to the other five. One, one, two, three, four, five, connected, 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 connected. There is no loophole. All of them are as important and they're all inter-fucking connected. Get it? Interconnected. Yeah. Key terms. Business analysis. The BABOK guide defines business analysis as the practice of enabling change in an enterprise by defining needs and recommending solutions that deliver value to stakeholders. That's what business analysis is. Business analysis information. Business analysis of information refers to the broad and diverse sets of information that business analysts analyze, transform, and report. That's basically the we get information, we analyze what the fuck it means, we transform it into something that makes sense to us or makes sense to the project, and we report it, which report for me is documentation. As in, this is what we've learned, this is what we've done, and this is how we're doing things. It is information of any kind at any level of detail that is used as an input to or is an output of. Remember, we talked about tasks in the previous video. And so there are always tasks that need something to be done from the outside, and sometimes they need to be giving something out for other tasks to be completed. Examples of business analysis information include elicitation results, requirements, design solution options, solution scope, and change strategy. Such a nerdy fucking job, business analysis. Imagine all the fucking writing and documentation and thinking you have to do. Huh? And that's what you want to do the rest of your life? Fuck yeah. It is essential to expand the object of many business analysis activities from requirements to information, to ensure that all inputs and outputs of business analysis are subject to the task and activities described in the BABOK guide. For example, when performing plan business analysis information management, it includes all the examples listed above. If the BABOK guide described plan requirement management, it would include important outputs like elicitation results, solution options, and change strategy. I don't know how. Okay, will any of you remember this example right now into the future? What am I supposed to do with this information? But anyways, basically, they're just saying there's information management, requirements management. Both of them are a different example, and both of them would basically require different types of information, I guess. Or at the very least, it would exclude important outputs like elicitation. So if we're planning requirements, we don't have to if we're planning requirements management, we don't have to elicit results or solution because it's the requirements that we're planning. So there is no result. We just have to kind of figure out the information that requires planning. But if we're planning with the business analysis information management, then we have to include these. So we have to decide the information that's relevant to whatever it is that we're doing at the time. We're probably going to be doing all that shit. Design. A design is the usual representation of a solution. Normally, a design is visual. Design focuses on understanding how value might be realized by a solution if it's built. The nature of the representation may be a document or a set of documents and can vary widely depending on the circumstances. Enterprise. An enterprise is a system of one or more organizations and the solutions they use to pursue a shared set of common goals. These solutions, also referred to as organizational capabilities, can be processes, tools, or information for the purpose of business analysis. Enterprise boundaries can be defined relative to the change and need not to be constrained by the boundaries of a legal entity, organization, or organizational unit. An enterprise may include any number of business, government, or any type of organization. They just have to name it enterprise. An organization, an autonomous group of people under the management of a single individual board that works towards common goals, objectives. Organization often have a clearly defined, so basically an enterprise is multiple organizations. And an organization is basically a group working for a single objective. A clearly defined boundary and operate on a continuous basis as opposed to an initiative or project team, which may be disbanded once its objectives are achieved. Just remembered, it crossed my mind the last time I was working, I was consulting for a company and I did some business analysis to them before I started this course, by the way. I actually took this course specifically in order for me to do a better job for them. And after 3 months, they just basically just could not, the resistance was intense, super intense. Ha, failures, baby, that's how we learn, or that's how we grow, actually. We can't learn without failures, but like failures are really kind of like the highlights of, hey, our mistakes are a contribution to us from the world, from life. A plan is a proposal for something or achieving something. Plans describe a set of events and dependencies among the events as expected, if expected, the expected sequence, the schedule, the results or outcomes, the materials, resources needed, and the stakeholders involved. Requirements. A requirement is a usable representation of a need. Requirements focus on understanding what kind of value could be delivered if a requirement is fulfilled. The nature of the representation may be a document or a set of documents, but can vary widely depending on the circumstances. All right, babies. Risk. Risk is the effect of uncertainty of the value of change, a solution, or an enterprise. Wow, we even have to kind of talk about the risks that, or I don't know if it's for us, but right now we're just explaining key terms. But I mean, it makes sense for us to kind of have a plan, but also tell them what are the risks of this plan, how it might fail, and what are the things that we need to be cautious of in order for it to succeed. Makes sense. Business analysts collaborate with other stakeholders to identify, assess, and prioritize risks and to deal with those risks by altering the likelihood of the conditions or events that lead to the uncertainty, mitigating the consequences, removing the source of risk, avoiding the risk altogether by deciding not to start or continue with an activity that leads to the risk, starting sharing the risk with other parties, blah, 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 things to do with a risk that we find. Communication, babies, communication. Now, requirements classification schema. For the purpose of the BABOK guide, the following classification schema describes requirements. There are business requirements, stakeholder requirements, solution requirements, functional requirements, solution requirements. Oh, I did that when I was doing when I was doing the software requirements for my platform. And I did that before I even did business analysis. I kind of sat and started doing all these things. But solution requirements, functional requirements, non-functional requirements, or quality of service requirements, and transition requirements. Let's discuss these. Business requirements are statements of goals, objectives, and outcomes that describe why a change has been initiated, right? Like what does the business need for them to hire you, man? They can apply to the whole of an enterprise business area or a specific initiative. You get this part, right? It could be just whatever. Stakeholder requirements describe the needs of stakeholders that must be met in order to achieve the business requirements. Now, business requirements are something, but stakeholders might need you to do it a certain way, might need something to actually. So look at it this way. A business requires a new sales strategy or a new system that enhances sales. The CEO might require that it enhances sales, for example, a specific area first or something else. Or maybe they would require that it might actually that they would want to enhance sale at a certain amount instead of like another amount. Or maybe they would want to enhance sales without hiring, for example, extra salesmen, right? Because a solution could be hire extra salesmen, but maybe the actual like stakeholder would be like, I want extra sales, but with the same salespeople, which means we have to work with the people we have, or maybe we have to switch some of them around. Solution requirements describes the capabilities and qualities of a small. Wait, words. They may stakeholder requirements. They may serve as a bridge between business and solution requirements. So stakeholders might be like the connection between like the end solution and what the solution wants and what the business wants, because they have to be like in cahoots. Solution requirements describe the capabilities and qualities of a solution that meets the stakeholder requirements. They provide the appropriate level of detail to allow for the development and implementation of the solution. Solution requirements can be divided into two subcategories, functional and non-functional. And this is beautiful. This is my favorite part, these. Eh, die. This is my favorite part. Do it, Tari. You can do it. Functional requirements describe the capabilities that a solution must have in terms of behavior and information that the solution will manage. Functional requirements are directly on how things, ha the capabilities that a solution must have. So, so let's stick to a sales team, right? A functional requirement which might be a salesperson to be able to make 50 phone calls a day. Non-functional requirements or quality of service requirements do not relate directly to the behavior or functionality of the solution, but rather describe conditions under which a solution must remain effective or qualities that a solution must have. So practically, I'm going to delete this so you guys can read it properly. Again, if anyone's watching this and you want this PDF, I'll fucking send it to you, man. Just like hit me up and we'll find a way. So non-functional requirements are like our branding, for example, right? Like I want to increase sales without like fucking with the integrity of the company. So like I want to increase sales or increase profits without lower quality material that we're selling, right? I want to increase sales, but I don't want the salespeople to be exhausted at the end of every day and basically lose morale. That's the non-functional requirements, I guess. When it comes to software, let me use software. Like functional requirements is literally like what kind of code and what does it do. It's like, for example, I want a feature that anytime somebody clicks something, it pops up. Non-functional requirements are it has to be fast, it cannot intervene with this part of the actual software or this part of the actual software. These are the non-functional ones. While the functional ones is it has to be at this speed, at this kaza, and it has to give you this result. This is a requirement. Like this is how we do it. This is what we have to do in order for this to actually work. Transition requirements describe the capabilities that the solution must have and conditions the solution must meet to facilitate transition from the current state to the future state. So what are the requirements for us to apply the solution that we have in a most effective and efficient way? Remember, I was working the company that I remembered earlier because we were working on a new solution. It's funny enough, it's a solution that the people I was working with suggested. But the closer we got to the change that is required for them to actually like work or like to start doing the stuff for them to start changing, the closer we were getting to the more they started resisting. And I don't know, again, like I didn't have experience dealing with people like that. And imagine like somebody might actually tell you this is what I want, and then for you to get this, this is what you have to do, and then they would basically like resist and say, I'm not gonna do it, fuck you, why did I hire you and all this shit, and then you go like, you want me to do your job for you. But anyways, so transition requirements are basically like, here's where we are, and this is the solution. How can you move from where we are to the solution? And yay, we're all happy, we get paid, everything's beautiful. So they are differentiated from other requirement types because they are of temporary nature. Transition requirements address topics such as data conversion, training, and business continuity. Right? Conversion of data, training, business continuity. Because you can't create a solution that stops business from actually working. Because there are a lot of solutions are probably like, if you stop business for a month, we'll be able to change this. If you're working in a factory, you might have to, for example, as a business analyst, you might be like, you need to get a new machine because this machine doesn't produce as much as a new one, and we have to change them. So your solution cannot be stop this machine, because if you're stopping this machine that they're not producing and are not selling, unless it's seasonal or something. But ultimately, your solution could be like, okay, let's get the new machine and like place it somewhere until it starts operational, and then when that happens, then we close this. So maybe you have to consider the part of the solution would be a new warehouse or cleaning out the warehouse and emptying bits and pieces of it. Some sacrifices might need to be done, but you get it. Like the transition, like you can't. The business has to keep going. You can't stop what's going on for the sake of what's going, for the sake of the solution, because ultimately, like people, yeah, you have to be able to handle shit in a way where people don't freak the fuck out. But you could do it because you're a business analyst, baby. Woohoo! Say it. Say it. Stakeholders, my favorite part of the entire work. I literally would rather go to somebody and be like, tell me what you want, fuck off. And then I would go do my job and be like, okay, this is what I'm doing. But that's because I would want people to trust me. Now, people don't really have that as a habit. It's not a part of them to be like, I hired you, so I'm gonna trust you. Most people are gonna be like suspicious. I hired you, I want to micromanage the fuck out of you. Or I hired you and I did not know how moody I am. That's also a consultant that I've worked with a person. And I remember the way I always tried to speak in a way that was very much inoffensive, but they always found a way to get offended. Yeah, the project didn't go through, but that's, I guess, part of the work, man. Because like, or at the very least, part of a work of a freelance business analyst. If you're working for a company, then they hired you and they're paying your salary, so they want the best, and they would try to understand you. But if you're working with random people, yeah, good times. So stakeholders, each task includes a list of stakeholders who are likely to participate in the execution of the task who will be affected by it. A stakeholder is an individual or group that a business analyst is likely to interact with directly or indirectly. Get it? So stakeholders are managers, stakeholders are salespeople, or bus drivers. I don't fucking know what industry you're going to be getting into. But you have to see where your work, like whatever solution you give, is going to touch a lot of stages in the company. You're lucky if it touches a few. But again, like it's just literally like you're lucky if the people that are you're going to be like interacting with are actually people that like what's going on or want it to happen. So the BABOK guide does not mandate that these roles be filled for any given initiative. Any stakeholder can be a source of requirements, assumptions, or constraints. This list is not intended to be an exhaustive list of all possible stakeholder classifications. Some additional examples of people who fit into each of these generic roles are generic roles. Generic. They said it. They said it. Oh my God. Are listed in the definitions below. And these are basically the generic list of stakeholders. In most cases, there will be multiple stakeholder roles found within each category. Similarly, a single individual may fill more than one role. Financial manager will fill more than one role. Accountant could fill more than one role. CEO would fill a whole lot of them. Or maybe even like the operations manager that sits and coordinates with the trucks because he's coordinating with the warehouse and coordinating with the trucks and coordinating with the drivers. So each one of these are actually could be relevant. So generic list of stakeholders: operational support, project manager, regulator, sponsor, supplier, tester, implementation subject matter expert, end user, domain subject matter expert, subject, customer, business analyst. You get it. Anyone could be a stakeholder. Even my cat. Yeah. She is definitely a stakeholder for my mental health. Business analysis. A business analyst. The business analyst is inherently a stakeholder in all business analysis activities. Look at that. You are the go-to guy. You generally would have all the responsibility and none of the fun. Is responsible and accountable for the execution of these activities. In other cases, the business analyst may also be responsible for performing activities that fall under another stakeholder role. Yeah, because you're literally the person that's going to be interacting with everyone. So you're probably going to be the prime stakeholder. A customer uses or may use products or services produced by the enterprise. You get to decide, by the way, yeah? Like, a customer could be a stakeholder or a customer could go fuck himself, right? Because some customers don't really care for how the product operates as long as they get what they want. For example, if you're doing business analysis when it comes to like delivery services, as long as the people get their delivery with the same quality and time, you don't fucking care, right? The same with software, as long as you don't fuck with the UI and you don't change a pattern that they're used to. Then if you change the entire software from the inside, the customer will never know. It's like basically code. Domain subject matter expert. These are people that probably would know more about what you're trying to understand. So you basically get them in order for them to advise you on the better things to look out for. Is any individual with in-depth knowledge of a topic relevant to the business need or solution scope? See here what they did? Business need, solution scope. I'm going to change the color? No, I'm going to keep it the same color. This role is often filled by people who may be end users or people who have in-depth knowledge of the solution, such as managers, process owners, legal staff, consultants, and others. End users are stakeholders who directly interact with the solution. End users can include all participants in a business process or who use the product or solution. Uh, get it? Because the end user could be the person that's actually buying the product, or the end user could be the delivery guy who's driving the truck. Because if you're providing a logistical support, for example, for like a delivery service, then the person who's going to be using the service is the guy driving the truck. It's not actually the customer. So like know the difference, or you'll figure it out with every like project you kind of take. You kind of have to like assess things and understand who are you dealing with, man. Implementation subject matter experts. An implementation subject matter expert is any stakeholder who has specialized knowledge regarding the implementation of one or more solution components. While it's not possible to define a listing of implementation subject matter experts, roles that are appropriate for all initiatives, some of the most common roles are project librarian. That's the guy that documents everything, or the woman, I'm not sure, like gender neutral, man. They can do whatever the fuck they want. Change manager, configuration manager, solution architect, developer, database administrator, information architect, right? Like, you're handling people that will be doing some work specific to a field. Usability analyst. There are other analysts than business analysts. Oh my God. Trainer and an organizational change consultant. Yeah, so this book is probably just a whole lot of fucking information. But again, the reason we're reading it is to create a reference in our mind. Because every time you're going to go to a new project, that's practically a case study. So slowly, you refer to these things in the book and you go like, oh, this is how I, it's not, the word is not remember, because like, I don't know who would remember all this shit. But I think it's how you basically, how your intuition is developed through this, because you're giving yourself all this abstract information. But what you're doing is you're holding like key points. And that's what I'm trying to do through explaining. And while doing that, basically, as I approach a project, the first thing that happens is these key points kind of like point to something. And then I come look for them through this. You can use the appendix, right? Like here. So this is the appendix. And it basically tells us about all the stuff that we wrote. So maybe I thought of something later on. Manage requirements traceability. I feel like I need to do something in between and then I can't find it here because I read it before, right? But anyways, we went through a lot. Not bad. So operational support is responsible for the day-to-day management and maintenance of a system or products. Again, depending on what you're doing. While is it not possible to define listing of operational support roles? These are the ones that are most common: operations analyst, product analyst, help desk, release manager. Project manager. Project managers are responsible for managing the work required to deliver a solution that meets a business need, and for ensuring that the project's objectives are met while balancing the project factors including scope, budget, schedule, resources, quality, and risk. Okay, well, it's not possible to completely define the listing of project management roles that are appropriate for all initiatives. Some of the most common roles are project lead, technical regulators are responsible for the definition of enforcement of standards. Standards can be imposed on the solution by regulators. So regulators are the people, auditors, basically, the people that stand there. You know, remember when you went to school and like as you're running, you have that one teacher that's like, "Stop running, you might fall down. You get out of the slide. What are you doing crying in the corner, man? Man up." Stuff like that. Sponsors. Sponsors are responsible for initiating the effort to define the business we need and develop a solution that meets that need. They authorize the work to be performed and control the budget and scope for the initiative. Alternative roles are executive and project sponsor. So sponsors basically are supposed to be on our side, but they also probably will be like act like regulators one way or another, or they would hire regulators. Supplier is a stakeholder outside the boundary of a given organization or organizational unit. Suppliers provide products or services for the organization and may have contractual or moral rights and obligations that must be considered. Alternative roles. Alternative roles are providers, vendors, and consultants. You know, whoever's working with the company from the outside could actually be a stakeholder as well. Testers are responsible for determining how to verify what solution meets the requirements defined by the business analyst. They're basically the people that kind of like check your work, man. Those are also stakeholders. Testers also seek to ensure what the solution meets applicable quality standards and that the risk of defects or failures is understood and minimized. An alternate role is quality assurance analyst. Ah, all right, I'm going to take a break, you guys. I love you. 5 minutes, I'll be back. Oof, I've been recording for 41 minutes. What the hell? All right, we're back. I have to recharge my earpiece. Cool. Now, where are we? Requirements and designs. Amazing. So, eliciting, analyzing, validating, and managing requirements has consistently been recognized as key activities of business analysis. Get it? It's in the actual title. Analysis. However, it's important to recognize that business analysts are also responsible for the definition of design at some level. In an initiative, the level of responsibility for design varies based on the perspective within which a business analyst is working. Requirements are focused on need, designs are focused on the solution. The distinction between requirements and design is not always clear. The same techniques are used to elicit, model, and analyze both. A requirement leads to a design, which in turn may drive the discovery and analysis of more requirements. The shift in focus is often subtle. You want us to read this again? Let's do it. Requirements are focused on the need, designs are focused on the solution. I think that's the core take. Why? Because like the requirements are actually like extracted from what needs to be done. And once we figure out how we want to get it done, that's when basically we create a design for the solution. The distinction between requirements and designs is not always clear. The same techniques are used to elicit, model, and analyze both. A requirement leads to a design, which in turn may drive the discovery and analysis of more requirements. The shift in focus is often subtle. Okay? They're just letting us know that if we get confused, it's normal because we're business analysts. The classification as a requirement or a design may become less significant as the business analyst's work progresses to a greater understanding and the eventual fulfillment of the need. So basically, sometimes you have to kind of like give up on a requirement because you're already getting closer to whatever it is that you're working on. And just basically probably understanding a requirement before you actually like establish it as a requirement could be more than enough for you to take a step forward. The tasks in the BABOK guide, such as trace requirements or specify and model requirements, may refer to requirements, but the intent is to include designs as well. So trace requirements is probably like a design towards requirements. I don't know. Business analysis can be complex and recursive. Recursive. Anyone familiar with recursion? It's uh, it's doing something over and over again with one thing that's constant as a change until there's nothing left to do. Which means basically like you go back to one thing and you basically do it with that one thing that's different and you keep doing it until finally it's like complete and then you take a step back, you see what you did, you pick a different area and you go over and over and over again. The design may be used to elicit additional requirements that are used to define more detailed designs. The business analyst may hand off requirements and designs to other stakeholders who may further elaborate on designs. Get it? Like the process of thinking is basically getting different perspectives. Don't think for a second that you're the person who's thinking. You're not thinking. What you're doing is you're allowing your mind to basically allocate information in a certain pattern. And your goal is to process the information in a way you best see fit so your mind creates a better pattern for the future information you process. So what happens is like, even if you're doing the eliciting, the designing and everything like this, another analyst might want to do different things to them, and that basically kind of like completes a pattern without you having to go for it. So you're vibing on other people's experience and opinions instead of you having to go through like different iterations of these opinions. So whether it is the business analyst or some other role that completes the designs, the business analyst often reviews the final designs to ensure that they align with the requirements. You could be giving it to a manager and be like, this is what I'm doing, and the manager adds his input, and then you go back, or her input, and then you go back and you do your own thing. The following table provides some basic examples of how information may be viewed as either a requirement or a design. Requirements: view 6 months sales data across multiple organizations, units in a single view. All right, so you have to put basically all the data across multiple organization units in one like, sheet for you to view. A design is basically a sketch of a dashboard. Like now that's the design for the requirement, right? Because like all this data, but how are you going to like organize them visually? That's the design. Another one would be reduce amount of time required to pick and pack a customer order. That's a requirement. And the design will be the process model. Like first, we actually like go to the product and we reduce this time by this much. We go to the salespeople or the people that are delivering the product. We kind of like handle some logistical area over there. And so these are the steps are the design. It's a process model. Record has access as medical patient's history. Record and access a medical patient's history. That's a requirement. Like I need to understand something, and this is the information I want. And screen mockup showing like specific data fields, like what is the data you're actually targeting, instead of going like, do you want all the and everything about the patient's history, or you want something else? A requirement: develop a business strategy, goals, and objectives for a few businesses, right? Like business capability model, like that's the model of, huh, I have no idea what this is. So I'm gonna highlight it in blue because we don't know yet, but I'm sure at one point we're gonna figure it out. Wait, if I actually, here, some things if I hover on top of. See here, I hovered on top of a few things and they turned yellow. Oh, I could write notes. Ah, nice, 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 nice. So I don't have to do this all the time. Okay, cool. Figured something about this. What is the software that I'm using, by the way? File. I think this is legitimately Firefox, basically for developers. Amazing. Provide information in English and French. Prototype the text displayed in English and French. The requirements versus design. Stakeholders may present a need or a solution to be assumed to an assumed need. A business analyst uses activity found in the citation and collaboration. Strategy analysis. Requirements analysis. See, this is the yellow that I'm talking about. Oh, so these basically are referenced in different pages. So that's why they actually like shine yellow. So if I open this link in a new tab, what happens? Come on. All right, I'll come back to this page in a bit. Mhm. It actually took me to it, elicitation and collaboration. This is the link. So amazing. This book actually could like help us kind of like endeavor into other places. So page 53, we'll get to this. Page 99, we'll get to this. Requirement analysis definition. Page 133. And solution evaluation. The transform that request into a requirement or design. Regardless of the focus of the stakeholder, the importance of the role of the business analyst lies in continuously asking the question why. For example, why is either a requirement or design necessary to provide value to an enterprise and facilitate the realization of an enterprise goals and objectives? This is actually very crucial, mainly because a lot of people kind of like want something, but they don't realize why they want it. And the more you can't ask just why, you have to ask why in like different forms in order for them to give you a better answer because what they see in their head is not what you see. And that's where communication kind of kicks in. Your goal is generally to understand as much as you can what is motivating the people to do what they do, or especially when you're going to be doing work. The last thing you want is for you to basically be pushed into doing something that's completely irrelevant, only because you didn't ask the right questions when the time you were given the task. So requirements and design cycle. Imagine this, it connects back to itself. Business requirements. Why do I want to do it? Oh, design, stakeholder requirements. What are the needs? And then design some more. Wow. And then design some more. Then solution requirements. What do I want? And then design some more. And then transition requirements. What are the conditions? And then assess outcomes and start all over again. So the first thing we do is we check for the business requirements. And then the second thing we do is check for the stakeholder requirements. What are the needs? And then we check for the solution requirements, and then we check for transition requirements. And each one has like basically like its own question to validate their existence. Like what are the conditions? Those are the transition requirements. And it kind of makes sense, but like when you go back to business requirements, you don't ask the same question. Now you have to ask the question basically here. You have to ask it based on what this what this loop gave you as a result. And basically it keeps going. So business, then stakeholder, solution, and then transition required. Cycle continues until requirements are met. Who decides that? We do, of course. Uh, and that's it for today, man. We entered chapter 3. Thank you very much, guys, for watching. I'm going to keep this. If you want to screenshot it, fucking love you. And today was episode 2. Bye, babies.